Hi friends, I'm Mary at Alaskan Homemaker. I'm getting my Levain ready tonight. It's about 9 o'clock right now, 9 p.m. and I'm gonna get my Levain ready. So I wanted to bring you guys along. I'm gonna make a sourdough boule. It's gonna be cheddar. I'm gonna make one cheddar and then one cheddar jalapeno. So let's get started. Another bowl. See that out. Okay, it's zeroed out, and now I'm gonna get 25 grams of starter in here. There we go, 25 grams of starter. And now we're going to put 100 grams of water. Okay, it's 126, that's pretty close. Okay, and now we're going to get 100 grams of flour. We're almost there. Oops, there we are. I'm going to take a little bit out. Okay, there we go. 100 grams of flour. Okay, now we have everything we need for our Levain. So I'm going to move the scale. And now I'm just going to mix this up really well. I just want all those dry flour bits to be hydrated. And that starter stirred in really good. Now I'm going to cover this with some saran wrap. And this is going to sit on the counter all night. Actually, I think I'm going to put it in this bigger bowl. I don't want this to overflow. If it grows a lot, then I don't want it to overflow on the counter. So I'm going to put it in this bigger bowl. And now I'm going to cover this up. And it's all set. It's all mixed good. Okay, so we're going to leave that on the counter all night, and I will meet you guys back here tomorrow morning. Good morning, friends. It's time to get started on our dough again. It's 10 o'clock in the morning right now, and I'm going to bring you guys in closer so you can see. Okay, I'm going to set my bowl on the scale, and then I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to clear it out so it's on 0. And now I'm going to put all of my Levain from the night before. Look how bubbly it is. Okay, so we're going to get all of that Levain in there. Now we're going to clear this out again to 0, and we are going to add 700 grams of water. Just about there. There we go. Perfect. Okay, and now we are going to get 1,000 grams of flour. I've got my big bucket of flour here and my 2-cup measuring cup, and we're going to zero this out again. And we're going to get 1,000 grams of flour in here. There we go, perfect. I like to go ahead and measure my salt so I don't forget it. And we need 20 grams of salt. So we don't add the salt yet. We do it in a different step, but just so I don't forget to add it to my bread, I'm going to go ahead and measure it out. Okay, and there's 20 grams, 21 grams, that's good. close enough. Okay, and now we're done with our scale and our salt. And now we're going to mix this up. So at first I use a wooden spoon to just get some of that flour mixed in and starter. And then once it's a bit dry, I kind of use the spoon and one hand to get all the flour bits hydrated. I'll link the original recipe below. The original recipe, they mix some water with the salt in a different step, but I go ahead and just add all the water here because I have tried it that way, but it's a little harder to incorporate, so I just do all the water at once, and then I'm just going to do the salt in a later step. So she does it a little bit different than I do. And you can use part whole wheat flour, or today I just used organic white flour from Costco, but I've used wheat a lot of times in here and it turns out great. So you can just use whatever flour you like, but with wheat it is nice to use at least some white flour with it. That way it makes the wheat a little bit lighter. The bread won't be as dense. Okay, it's looking pretty good. So I'm going to get all the dough off that I can, and then we're going to let this auto lease for 30 minutes. Okay, that's pretty good. So I will bring you guys back in the next step. It's time to do our next step. We're going to add the salt. I forgot to tell you on the last step too, you do always want to cover your dough. So I have a silicone lid and I always cover it. Otherwise your dough will dry out. So I'm going to remove the lid and I'm going to sprinkle the salt on top. I have a little bowl with just some water in it. And I'm just going to drizzle, a few drops on top with the salt. And then I'm going to drive the salt into the dough. We're going to get this mixed good. Okay, and now we're going to start slapping folds. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of water on the counter and use a dough scraper to get that onto the counter. Looks like there's a little bit of dried bits in here. Okay, and I'm going to wet my hands, and we're going to do what's called slap and fold. So you go like this, slap the dough down, and go like this. So slap it down, take it from the side, slap it down, and you repeat that over and over, and we're going to do that for 5 minutes. So I'm going to set the timer. It gets that salt mixed in really well, and we'll have a really nice smooth dough. Once the salt is incorporated, it will feel really, really sticky. So don't think anything is wrong. It's all good. Just keep on mixing. And you can feel how smooth the dough is getting. This really mixes the dough up really well with that salt. There's our timer. I'm gonna get a clean bowl because I don't like the dry bits from the previous bowl. So I'd like to get this into a clean bowl. Get all the little bits in there. You can use the scraper to get some of this excess dough in there. And then we're going to cover it with our silicone lid, and we're going to do stretch and folds every 30 minutes. We are going to get our toppings or our mix-ins ready. We're going to do cheddar in both, but jalapeno only in one of them. So we're going to slice this cheddar. We're going to make little cubes of cheddar. Okay, that looks good. We're going to do one whole thing of cheddar in each loaf. This recipe makes 2 boules. You don't want to get too many mix-ins in your loaf of bread. Otherwise, one time I did like 2 of these in one loaf and it had really huge holes in it and stuff. So now I just do one slice off of the cheddar and make it into little cubes. Also, if you shred it, it'll just melt in and you won't have like little chunks of cheese in your bread. So this method works really good. Okay, so that's going to be for one. And this will be for the other one. So I'll set that aside, and then we'll drain these jalapenos. I just guess on the amount of my mix-ins too. I don't really have a measurement, so I just do what looks good. So I'm just going to, I think that'll be enough. So I've got that many jalapenos, and I have a paper towel inside of a bowl, and I'm just gonna get the extra moisture off with this paper towel. Okay, and we're gonna work this into our dough. We're gonna split it in half because we only want one loaf to have the jalapeno cheddar in it. So we're gonna wet our counter down with some water and wet our hands. And now we'll get the dough out. Okay, and now I'm just gonna eyeball it and split it in half with my bench scraper. And then I'm gonna stick one half back in the bowl. And this other half, I'm gonna put a little more water down. And then I'm gonna use as much water as you need so that the dough doesn't stick to your hands. And then we're gonna get this spread out so we can get the cheese mixed in there really good. Okay, so I'm gonna take some of that cheese that was for one loaf and put that in. You can kind of press them in. And this is going to count as one of our stretch and folds. Okay, and I'm going to re-wet my hands. And now we're going to get it gathered back up. There we go. So now we've got our mix-ins ready for this one, so we're going to get that in a separate bowl by itself now. And now we're going to get the cheddar jalapeno one done the same way. All right, and that one's ready too. And now I'm going to cover them with a silicone lid, this one too, and then I'm going to let them hang out for another 30 minutes until our next stretch and fold. We're doing our second stretch and fold on both of these loaves of bread, both of these boules. So you're going to do north, south, east, and west, and I have a little bowl of water, and just wet your hand. So you're going to stretch it and turn the bowl, stretch it, turn the bowl, stretch it, and you don't want it to break, just stretch it until you can't stretch it anymore, and then let it go back in there. And then it goes into a tight ball, and then we're going to cover that up with the lid, and we'll do this one. Okay, so I'm wetting my hand again, and we're going to do north, south, east, and west. There we go. And we'll let these rest for another 30 minutes. We're doing our third stretch and fold. There we go. Now we have one left, and then we'll be getting it into our banneton baskets. This is our final stretch and fold. I've got my little bowl of water, and I'm going to wet my hands. We'll start with this one. There we go. I'm going to cover this back up. And when we come back in 30 minutes, we're going to get them into the banneton baskets. It's time to get our bread into our banneton baskets. I like to use rice flour. And I have a little tiny sieve. I'm going to put it in. Okay, I like to get the edges first. This will help our bread not to stick in our baskets. Okay, there's one. Do this one. Okay, and that looks good. And now we're going to do the pre-shaping. Okay, I don't want these baskets to get wet, so I'm going to move those way over. Okay. And then I'm going to wet the counter down with this water. This one's the cheddar one. Okay, I'm going to wet my hands down. A little more. Okay, and then I'm going to pinch all the sides into the middle. Like that, and then wet my hands again and go like that. And then I'm going to pull it towards me and kind of drag it along the counter, and then it's going to make tension in your bread. Okay, and we're going to let that sit there. We're going to do the pre-shape and then let it sit for 10 minutes. And then we'll do the final shaping and get it into the banneton baskets. And then we'll let them rise for 1 hour, and then we'll get them into the fridge overnight. And tomorrow we get to bake it and see how they turned out. Okay, so here we go. We're going to pinch everything into the middle. Flip it over and use as much water as you need. We're going to tighten it up, put some tension in our dough. Okay, and I'm not going to cover these or anything for 10 minutes, and then we're going to come back and we're going to do the final shape. We're ready to do our final shaping. So I'm going to dip my hands in this water. Okay, and I've got banneton basket right here. Okay, and now I'm going to flip this one over. The 10 minutes just gives it a little time to relax, and then you can do your final shaping. Okay, there we go. Now we're gonna get the tension. It's almost basically just like what we did for the pre-shaping. We're doing it again. Okay, and this one's ready. So we're gonna get this in the banneton basket. And I'm gonna pinch this right here, this middle part. There we go. So that one's all ready to go. And now we're gonna get this jalapeno one going. I'm gonna put a little water here, wet my hands, flip it over, and I'm gonna pinch it to the middle. Okay, and then I'm gonna flip it back over, a little more water, and then we're gonna get some tension on this bread. And then we're going to flip the nice side down. So here's the nice side. We're going to flip it over into the banneton basket, because tomorrow when we flip it out, that's going to be the top part that we can score. Okay, and we're pinching this. There we go. And now we're going to leave it sitting out on the counter, covered for 1 hour so it can rise. I'm going to clean this up so I can show you guys that part. I'm going to use this food grade plastic bag that you can get on Amazon. So I'm going to put it all the way to the back. The jalapeno one's in the back, and then here's the cheddar one in the front. And then blew a little air into it because I don't like anything touching the top of my bread. And then I'm just going to tuck this one underneath here. There we go. And then now that's just going to sit on the counter for 1 hour, and then I'll bring you back when I put it in the fridge. Okay, hi friends. It's been an hour, and so I'm going to get the dough into the fridge, and it's going to stay there all night, and then we'll pull it out in the morning and bake it. So here we go, into the fridge. I'll see you all tomorrow morning. Good morning, friends. It's the next morning, and it is 6:13 in the morning. You don't have to bake your bread that early, but I'm gonna go ahead and bake mine. So we're gonna get started. I'm gonna pull my one loaf out of, I'm gonna bake one loaf at a time. So I'm gonna pull one boule out of the fridge and get that baking. I'm gonna leave the other one in the fridge until this one is baked. Okay, and I'm gonna bring you guys in closer so you can see. Okay, we're gonna get started. My Dutch oven has been in the oven at 500 degrees for 30 minutes preheating. So you put your Dutch oven in the oven so it can heat up while the oven's heating up. And then I'm gonna get a piece of parchment paper out. I like to crinkle mine up because then it shapes to the loaf better. Okay, and then you open it up, and then I go like this, and then it just makes more of a round shape for your round loaf. Okay, and then put that on top of your banneton basket, and then I take my flat cookie sheet and put that right on top, and then carefully flip it over. And then lift that up. There we go. And then I take this off and I knock any flour that might have gotten in the banneton basket. And then I take this liner for the banneton basket and just dust all that rice flour off. I get as much out as I can. I've had my banneton baskets for years now, and I never washed. I've only washed the liner once. I hand washed it and let it air dry. But if you just knock all the flour off, and then I just put it in the banneton basket like this, and I let it air dry for a couple days before I store it away, and then you never get mold or anything, and it just stays really nice, because you want this to stay nice and dry while you're storing it so it doesn't get any mold or anything on it. So that's what I do. Just leave it on the counter for a couple days like that and you'll be good. Okay, next I brush off as much of the rice flour as I can. From all around, and then I try to gather all the rice flour to one side and then brush it off into the sink. And now I've got my bread lame, and we're gonna score the bread. Here's the bread, and then I take the bread lame at an angle and I just score it so it's off to the side, it's not down the center. So there's the score. And now we're gonna get this into the oven. Okay, now we're gonna get the Dutch oven out of the hot 500-degree oven. And we're going to take the lid off and carefully put the loaf down in here into the Dutch oven. And then put the lid on. And we're going to bake it for 20 minutes. And I'll bring you back for the next step. Our timer just went off. We're going to take the lid off. We get to see how well our bread did. Here we go. So carefully take it off. This is very hot. Ooh, it's doing fantastic. Now we're going to close it up and we're going to turn the oven off and get it back on. We're going to lower the temperature to 375 and for another 20 minutes. I will see you in 20 minutes. Our timer just went off and it's time to pull the bread. Oh, it's so exciting. It's gorgeous. Okay, we're going to carefully get this out. We got a nice ear, and I'm going to set this on the cooling rack. So you guys can see that. I wish y'all could smell it. It smells delicious. I'm gonna preheat my Dutch oven again to 500 degrees and get the second loaf in. I do like to let my bread cool all the way. The moisture redistributes in the bread and makes the crumb better if you let it cool off. If you cut it while it's warm, it's more of a gummy texture. Once in a while you have to have the sacrificial loaf though, but I do mostly like to let it cool all the way down. So I will bring you guys back when they're both done and we're ready to get a crumb shot. Our bread has been cooling for 2 hours and now we're going to cut into it and see how the crumb is. Doesn't that look delicious? This is the jalapeno cheddar one, and we got a nice ear on this one also. This bread is so good. Once you taste sourdough bread, you just can't go back to the yeasted bread. It's just so good. Oops. Okay, now for the taste test. I like to put mine on a side like this, and then it's a little easier to cut into slices. Okay, here we go. It's so good. Y'all are gonna love this. Y'all gotta try this recipe. Thank you for spending time with me. I hope you have a blessed day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.